Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I woke up today and I was thinking about something that I wanted to share. I like to share some of my thoughts with people, especially young people, to understand kind of how life works. You know, there are a lot of things that I wish someone had been able to tell me when I was younger. I kind of felt like my educational journey, I was just sort of, like a blind man, just feeling his way through. In order to find my destiny, whatever that was. And there were a lot of confusing times. And one moment that came to mind this morning was when I had this teacher in college. And I went to the University of Kentucky, which historically has been a pretty racist school. I think it's still pretty racist, not so much in terms of how people are treated, but institutionally. They don't hire very many African-American professors. They don't give tenure to those professors. So until they start doing that, then I'm going to believe that they have a racial problem, because they have no problem finding black basketball players, but for some reason they can't find black professors to hire. But that's another story. But here's the reason why it does that sort of thing does matter. I had this professor, this economics professor, when I was about 19 years old. It was right after my freshman year. I was taking some summer classes. And I remember that, I was a really diligent student. I wasn't a good student in high school, but when I got to college and I had a baby when I was 18, I became very serious about my academics, and I became even more serious once I realized that I was actually smart enough to make good grades. Before that, I didn't believe that I was smart enough. And so anyway, so I'm in this guy's class, and I'm literally a study lunatic. I always have been. I've always been a big believer in hard work. And if you're not getting what you want, you give more, and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And I still do that. To this day, I'm the same guy I am as when I was that 19-year-old kid, just an older version of him. So anyway, this teacher, I don't remember this guy's name, but he was an old dude. He was probably in his 80s, maybe. So he'd been around at the University of Kentucky, since the days when black people were not ever going to be allowed to go to that school. And I remember I turned in my economics tests, and I remember getting really bad grades. I remember getting like a D- and stuff like that. And it confused me because I was getting A pluses in every other class. Now, I'm not a person that would assume I deserve an A just because I'm getting an A in another class. But at the same time, I couldn't understand why there was such a huge contrast. But the thing was, they were essay tests. And essay tests made me nervous because you really can't, sometimes it's hard to argue that your answer is right because everything's kind of arbitrary. That's why I hated classes like that. And here's the funny part, though. I remember there was a kid next to me, a white kid, who was getting A's on every test, A pluses. And we would compare our answers. And both of us were like, your answer is the same. He would say, your answer is the same as mine. Or in many cases, my answer was better than his because I literally had practically memorized the textbook. And so I remember going to try to talk to this teacher, and he would just give me some jumbled explanation for why my grade was bad. And he slammed the door in my face. He didn't want to talk to me anymore. It really, really irritated me. I mean, it really made me angry to the point where I remember walking out of that classroom and slamming the door. I was so pissed off. I mean, I was an angry black man, and at that time I didn't realize the stigma of being a so-called angry black man. I still am an angry black man, but at least now I understand how America perceives angry black men different from everybody else. And so anyway, I remember I went to the department chairman. He didn't help because this guy was one of his old friends, and this old dude had tenure, so he couldn't do anything to him. I then went to the dean of the college. I think it was Arts and Sciences. He didn't do anything, so I went up above his head. I went to the academic ombudsman, which was the person that makes these final academic decisions at a higher level. And lo and behold, the academic ombudsman gave me an option. He said, you can go take your final exam in another class, or you can keep the old grade. And he said, you can either let this new final be your entire grade for the semester, or you can merge that grade with your other grade from your previous class. Well, the thing was, I had a D plus in the other class. So I said, I'm not taking the D plus. I don't want that mixed in with my grades because I'm a hardworking student. And I said, look, I'll just put it all on the final in this other class. So I assumed that in this other class, they were using the same textbook that we had been using. And it turned out they had an entirely different textbook. And I'll never forget this. Within about 4 days, I had to read 250 pages in this book and learn 250 pages in this book. So I literally read this crap 3-4 times in 4 days. I've never been that stressed out in my life. I was able to zoom in on that one class because I think I had 4 classes and I was making A+s in all. I'm talking about A+++. I mean, I was Mr. Insane student when I was in college. I probably should have went to a better school, but the problem was my grades in high school were so bad that I couldn't get in anywhere else. I certainly couldn't get into any HBCUs or get them to give me a scholarship because I couldn't afford to go there. But because my parents didn't pay for college, I paid for it myself, which I think is fine. I think it's okay to let your kids contribute to their college education. It helps them grow up faster. So anyway, so I just gave all my energy to this one class, and I took that final. And there were 50 questions on the final. I'll never forget. And on this final, I got 48 questions right. So I guess I got a 96 on this test. And I was and the 2 answers I missed them because the answer in my other book was different from the answer in the new textbook or something like that. So I remember being so happy. I'll tell you how I felt. If you've ever seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, you remember how happy Charlie was when he had the golden ticket and was like running to his mama's house to tell his family that he'd won the lottery, won the golden ticket. That's how I felt. I remember riding my bike. I was riding 100 miles an hour. I was jumping over puddles, flying over stuff. I just had so much adrenaline, so much energy because I had triumphed over this old asshole who was trying to block me from my destiny. And what I learned from that experience is that racism is real. We know racism's real. But here's the thing. No matter what happened in that class, that old white dude, that old bigot, was not going to stop me from being successful. In my life, in my career, I've gone on to become probably 10 times more successful than he ever was. I've accomplished 10 times more in my life than he ever would. And I don't say this to brag, but I say it in a way that says, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. Racism is real. We know that. But racism does not stop you from going after what you want. The key is you got to make sure don't try to always spend your life wanting things that white people have to give you. Go try to create something that you can create yourself. Put that energy into having your own business. Put that energy into your own knowledge. I don't know about you, but a white man has never stopped me from picking up a book. So when I see so many black people who don't want to even read, who don't want to learn, who don't want to grow, that's not racism. I mean, don't get me wrong. Racism created the conditions under which we established the mindset that led us to become self-deprecating, self-defeating, etc. It affected our self-esteem. We know how that works. Structural racism does have a real psychological impact, but there is a point where you can jump out of the matrix and realize that your future belongs to you. Your destiny belongs to you. Your life belongs to you. So never let racism convince you to not do your best. Never let racism convince you to give up on something that you want, because at the end of the day, if you walk away, then the bigots always win. If I had walked away, if I become a disgruntled black man and decided to react negatively to what I was going through and dropped out of school or went off and punched him in the face or something like that, then that would be on me and he would win, right? But I didn't. I just came back and I pushed harder and I was able to get what I wanted. And even if I hadn't got what I wanted, everything still would have been okay. I still would have been Dr. Boyce Watkins and all these other things that people think I am now. And I accept that and I appreciate that. But, at the end of the day, I'm no different from anybody watching this video. And I just want to say that to encourage you to always give 100%. You have to live your life on a principle of extraordinary effort on everything you do. If you look at a guy like Michael Jordan, I don't like Michael Jordan politically. I think he's an absolute waste to the black community, unfortunately, because he doesn't seem to care a whole lot about helping the black community. I'm mad at the guy for letting little kids get shot over his shoes and all that stuff. But I'm going to put that to the side for a minute and talk about him as a basketball player. As a basketball player, what I admired about Michael Jordan, as a human being actually, is that he seems to have a philosophy that says, I'm going to be an extraordinary man because every day I'm going to always give extraordinary effort. And that's what makes him great as an athlete, and that's probably what makes him great as a businessman. I just wish he would be a little more compassionate toward his people, but you can't have everything, I guess. But long story short, commit yourself to day-to-day extraordinary effort in everything that matters to you. When it comes to raising your kids, go above and beyond. When it comes to losing that weight, go above and beyond. When it comes to learning and knowledge and study and critical thinking, go above and beyond. When it comes to working hard on your business, go above and beyond. Find a purpose in your life. If you have purpose in your life, then you'll never be depressed. You'll never feel like you don't have a destiny or a vision. You'll never have trouble getting out of bed in the morning because you'll know that God put you on this planet to do something special. Find your purpose, put it in your sights, give it 100%, and live your life by a philosophy of greatness. Greatness means not always getting extraordinary outcomes, but it does mean always giving extraordinary effort. There's no excuse for laziness, no excuse for giving up, no excuse for walking away from what you want, no excuse for not giving 100%. Just be the best that you can be. And that's all I wanted to say about this racist-ass teacher from college. If I saw him now, I ain't gonna lie, I'd probably smack him or something. But then again, really, truth be told, I actually, in all seriousness, I forgive him. I feel sorry for him because his mind had been so limited by racism that somehow he could not see that he and I were very much alike in the sense that we both had a love for economics and both had a love for scholarship. Instead, he just saw me as a nigger, and that's on him. But I'm not gonna stoop to that level. Well, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. Please take care. God bless and have a wonderful day. I'm gone. Peace.